As you guys all know, or if you don't, and it's first time here, my name is Kevin McGaughey. I am a senior commercial loan officer at Washington Capital Partners. We do fix and flip loans and other investment loans for investors located in the Washington, D.C. area and beyond. And today we are having a conversation with a successful real estate investor. So you're going to hear a lot of different things today, but there's two things that are super important. We are just having a conversation. We're not providing any sort of advice. So if we do provide advice, which is what we're going to do the whole time, please make sure that you run it past any other real estate professionals or an accountant, an attorney, whatever you need to, just to make sure that everything that we say works for you, because what works for us might not work for you. And more important than that disclaimer is this is a networking event. Hopefully this is the last time we are going to be through Zoom. I want to be back in our brand new office in Tyson's Corner next month. But for now, we need you guys to be active in the chat. What I like to do is I like to say, my name is Kevin McGaughey. Here's my information. Here's where you can best reach me at. And I am who I am and what I am looking for. So I'm going to do that right now. WSP.team. I am a hard money lender looking to network with borrowers. Work with borrowers. And send. There we go. So, man of the hour, Mr. Chris Clark, tell us about yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it. And nice to meet all of you virtually via Zoom. So my name is Chris Clark. I am the owner of Summit Realty Investment Group, and we are a residential redevelopment company where we specialize in buying distressed properties, renovating, and reselling them, which is a fancy way of saying I flip homes. Specialize in flipping row homes in DC, and I have dabbled with some single family in Northern Virginia as well, and a couple of condo conversion projects too.
Awesome. We did forget another important thing. This is a drinking event. Please feel free to join us. That is as important as everything else. So cheers to everybody out there. So sir, how did you end up getting your start?
Yes, so I went to college down at the University of South Carolina, and I actually graduated with a finance degree, and I started off in the corporate world. And I've said this a lot, it is a true story. Literally on my first day, I'm sitting there wearing a suit and tie, going through some trainings, and by lunchtime, I'm just like, this is not for me. I can see the next 40 years of my life flashing right in front of me, and I'm like, this is not what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I did not quit that day, but I did start trying to figure out other options that day. And so talk to, my parents, some of my parents' friends, some people I respected, some mentors, and, all signs kind of started pointing towards real estate. So once I decided real estate was kind of the path I wanted to head down, I actually joined a coaching program. There might be a couple of fellow Fortune Builder members in the group. So I went through the Fortune Builders coaching program, and that was 2017. So almost just about 5 years now, and never looked back.
And then we met later that year at a GRID event.
Yep. So, this was pre-COVID, so 2017, 2018. And one of the things every person you talk to was got to hit the networking events, So I think I was going to at least one a week, in my first few years. I was hitting up all the networking events, had a great time doing so. And yeah, I came to this very networking event back when you guys were in Falls Church doing live events. Kevin was the moderator back then, and that's how we met. Probably I've closed 20 plus loans with Kevin since, something like that.
Great plug. Thank you. All right. Tell us about your first deal. How did you find it? How did you finance it? And what at the time were you not prepared for?
Yeah. So my first deal came about 6 months after I kind of, decided real estate investing, flipping real estate was something I wanted to do. So it took me 6 months to find my first deal, and I found it through a real estate agent. So like I said, I was going to all these networking events, meeting a bunch of agents, letting them know what I was doing, what I was looking for. And so I had, a handful of agents out there sending me deals. And my first deal was a pocket listing. So an agent I knew had a listing that wasn't on the market yet, and she offered me the opportunity to come take a look at it. And I was able to get it under contract before it hit the market, with the agreement that I would give her the listing on the back end as well. So that was always my proposition to to agents of why work with me. I'm easy to work with. It's going to be a smooth transaction. Plus, you're going to get, the listing commissions on the back end as well.
So I have follow-up questions about that. I sent Chris a bunch of questions to prepare, and now I'm going to throw some at him that I did not send him because of what you just said to me. So you are a real estate agent, right? So you're
licensed. Yep.
You're licensed. So part of you finding deals, one of the things that you are able to you're able to find more deals because you offer the listing on the back end to other agents, even though you're an agent yourself. Right.
Yep.
Awesome.
So do you want me to expand on that, or you got a follow-up question?
Go crazy.
Yeah. So, I always say, if you bring me a deal, I will always offer the agent the opportunity to list it on the out sale. And those are for off-market deals, right? So if it's an MLS deal, I'm looking at the MLS daily myself. So if you're just sending me a nice distressed property on the MLS, thank you very much. Didn't need you to do that. I can take it from here. But, if you're working with a distressed seller and, it's not on the market yet, or someone in your office has a distressed listing, and you want to represent me as the buyer, and then, I always offer them the opportunity on the house. So that's for, off market opportunities. And then stuff that's on the market, like I said, I am licensed, which is a nice way, to make MLS offers. And then, for opportunities where agents aren't bringing them to me, maybe I'm buying from a wholesaler, maybe I found a deal from my own marketing efforts. Then I do list it myself, and it keeps a little extra money in my pocket.
Absolutely. And how did you end up financing that deal? Did I miss that?
Yeah, that one actually, believe it or not, my first deal, I used a commercial bank loan. So someone else I met at a networking event worked for Congressional Bank, no longer Congressional Bank. They are now Forbright Bank. But he was like, yeah, I'll lend to a first-time borrower. And I think I got 1.6% or something, which was cheaper than hard money, obviously. So that's the way I financed my first deal.
Awesome. And what were you not prepared for at the time? What were some surprises?
If I remember correctly, I had quite a few change orders submitted to me by my contractor. So that's one thing a lot of investors will recommend, right? Is, make sure you're budgeting 25%, not 25%, maybe 5 to 10% contingency in case something pops up during the renovation that you weren't expecting. I was very eager to do my first deal. Like I said, it took me around 6 months. So, I bypassed that line item. I said, nothing's gonna pop up that I'm not expecting. We did a full walkthrough, blah, blah, blah. We opened up a few walls, and sure enough, there was, $10,000-$15,000 worth of change orders, which, is not fun when you haven't budgeted for that.
No, not fun at all. Okay, so when comparing as you've grown and done more and more deals, what is the biggest difference when you're comparing your first, your third, and your 10th deal?
Yeah. So my first deal, I knew nothing, right? This is my first deal. I know I don't know anything. My third deal, I knew everything by then. I was like, I've done 2 of these bad boys. I've seen it all. What could happen? By my 10th deal, I was back to knowing I knew absolutely nothing at that point. Yeah, no, it's a roller coaster. It is. There's ups and downs all the time. You get a lot of good experience along the way, though. I think, my feeling is not unique. You do 2 or 3 deals, you think you've seen everything. And I can assure you haven't. There's a lot. I still learn something new every day. So I would just say, get that good experience. Like, experience is the best way to learn, right? So you don't need to know it all to do your first deal. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, don't think you know it all by the time you do your second or third deal. Be willing to learn, continue to be conservative with your ARV estimates, your construction estimates, stuff like that.
Yep. I'm sure some of the lessons that you learned after 3 through 10 were tough lessons too, especially if you had already completed a few.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you were to, Connor is actually right out here. He just finished up at another grid. They don't need to see you. Okay, sorry. All right. You already talked about this a little bit, but if you were to explain your investment strategy, what would you say it is and why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say I'm a, in conversation, I say I'm a residential redeveloper. It sounds a little classier than just saying you're a flipper. A lot of times flippers has that negative connotation to it, but my primary investment strategy is flipping homes. And I've focused in on that over the past, I would say 3 years or so. My first couple of years, I thought about doing a little bit of everything, right? Maybe I'll wholesale a bit, maybe I'll flip, maybe I'll buy some rentals too, throw in a condo conversion, why not? I quickly found out it's a lot easier to get good at one thing, kind of master one thing rather than trying to be, good at 4 things and you end up not being very good at any of them. So I have focused on flipping homes. That's not to say, I do have a few rentals as well, but I like to focus on flipping. And that's not saying that's the best investment strategy. 20 years from now, I'll probably wish I had held on to more rentals. Just right now, it's what I have done the most of and what I, makes the most sense for me at this moment.
That's a good enough reason for me. So what technology do you use to keep yourself organized as a single family flipper?
Yeah. I use, I use Podio primarily. I'm sure most people have heard of Podio. And it's really nothing fancy. I have my properties in there, my tasks, my stages of construction, what I need to, follow up on each day and stuff like that. So that's my primary database. I've at times used other things. I do have a Mojo account for when I've used cold calling in the past. I've used other like real estate specific software, but for the past 2+ years, Podio has been my primary CRM. But I'm not the most tech savvy investor out there. Like, I think a lot of other like wholesalers probably have a lot more softwares and stuff than me. I just keep it pretty simple for the most part.
Yeah, those bigger wholesaling companies, I mean, they need to keeping track of leads is money. So
Right.
I'm sure that they have something more complex. We just got a question, and I'm going to lump that question in with my next question,
Okay.
which is, how do you vet contractors? Do you use one at a time? Do you use different contracts for different projects? Or are you your own GC?
I am, I'll start with the last question. I am not my own GC. So I have absolutely learned a lot about construction over the past 5 years. I am still extremely unhandy. I have to call my father-in-law over to every time I want to hang a picture. So I am not a handyman. And to be honest, I'm fine with that. That's not why I got in this business. I don't want to be on the job sites, critiquing everything the contractors are doing. That's not what I enjoy. And so I guess vetting contractors, it's tough, right? Contractors are a huge part of the business. You find a good one, they can help you a lot. If you get caught up with a bad one, things can go very badly very quickly. I've experienced both sides. So the first contractor I used, was a referral to me, and we started out, we did a few projects, 1, 2 at a time, and they all went pretty smoothly. And he did great work. Everything went smoothly. And then at that point, I got lazy. I stopped looking for new contractors, and I gave 5, 6 projects to this one contractor. And once he had that increased load, the wheels started falling off. So he was using money from one job to fund another. And, 5, 6 projects later, the wheels came off, and it was a big mess. I would not wish that scenario on my worst enemy. It was a very stressful time, I'm not going to lie. So that being said, I would vet contractors by looking for referrals, right? So people who are at this meeting tonight, if any of them are willing to share contractors, that would be great. Your lender, right? I'm sure Kevin knows several general contractors that would love for their information to be shared. And then, obviously online, contractors who have a nice website are going to be your expensive ones, or maybe they're going to focus on working with retail clients. So it's not always easy to find them that way, but, driving around the neighborhoods that you're doing work in, looking at comps and trying to figure out, if you can find the permit and, what contractors listed on that would be a nice way to find some. And then, ask them to see their work, right? So if you're trying to rehab a home and you want it to sell for $1 million, go ask them to show you a home that they've done that, was in that price range. Look at the quality of their finishes, see how long it took them to complete it, and so forth.
I often say a good contractor is a contractor that is working. So you may want to if a house is being flipped and you're looking at a house on the same street, walk into that house being flipped and ask to talk to the GC. That
Right.
person is working for a reason. Maybe because they're cleaning up someone else's bad work, but they were good enough to at least get that job.
Right.
So I have another question here about investors that I'm going to bring in. I'm going to take that one with the next question.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the contracting part of it, but at least once a year for our grid, we always go with build your investment dream team as the topic of the day. So can you talk about what your team, besides the contractor, obviously looks like?
Yep. So I'll start with my own company. So for the first 3 years, I was I was a one-man show. And then I ended up hiring an acquisitions manager who focused on marketing efforts, following up with leads, analyzing deals, and submitting offers. And that worked. It went great, to be honest. It was a great hire. He was a great fit. Not all things last forever. So he actually left beginning of the summer. Just got offered a better opportunity. And so I'm back to a one-man show at this point. So internally at Summit Realty Investment Group, it's just me. But then, the bigger team that everyone talks about is if you're not licensed, you definitely need several great real estate agents. And like I said earlier, I am licensed. I still have a nice network of real estate agents that I, stay in touch with, and, they're definitely a big part of my team. Second one, obviously contractors are a huge part. We just talked about that. You want to find, at least 2 to 3 good contractors that you can trust and plug into your projects as you get rolling. Lenders are huge, obviously. So hard money lenders, commercial bank lenders, someone who can get your deal financed. If you find a good deal, but you can't get it closed, there's not much of a point in that, right? So, plug to Kevin, like I said earlier, I've done, honestly, I don't know the number. It's got to be close to 20 though, with Kevin and his team alone. So Washington Capital Partners, they do a great job and always happy with their service. So lenders is huge. There's so many people that get involved throughout the life cycle of a project. You have your architects, if you're doing a high-end project, interior designers, you got your stagers, title companies. There's a lot of people who will touch every project. And, I kind of just see myself as the quarterback almost, right? So I'm doing a lot of follow-up, engaging a lot of people, making sure things are being completed on time. But yeah, your internal team doesn't have to be big. I'm a one-man show, and I typically help around 10 projects at a time. But as long as you have a strong external team of professionals you can rely on, they can really help your business grow.
And then we had some questions related to where your down payment money comes from. So are you partnering with people for down payments? Do you have partners in these deals? At this point, is it a self-directed IRA, or where's that down payment cash coming from?
Yeah, so I don't know if my lender will like to hear this or not, but I borrow a lot of money. So when I started my business, I was 25 years old. I had I little to no money to speak of. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I just graduated college. Like, I didn't have any money. And so I relied on, my network. I raised money from friends and family to start. I offered them 15% return on their money for the gap funding, right? So, hey, it's a risky investment. I see Kevin shaking his head.
I'm mad because when I did my deals, my friends made me pay them more.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I was paying 18 and 20% to my buddies.
Okay,
but 15% is good.
Yeah, 15%. I think it's a very nice return. And when you present it to your friends and family, if they're investing in the stock market or whatever else people are doing these days, if you can guarantee someone a 15% return, a lot of people are going to be happy about that.
Yep.
So this is kind of cliche, but the holiday season is rolling around. If you're going to be at dinner parties, all sorts of happy hours. If you're someone who's looking for money, I would come up with some sort of sales pitch almost. Tell them what you're doing, what you're looking for. Hey, I'm looking to buy real estate. I'm typically raising 50,000 to 100,000 of private money on each deal, and I can offer you a 15% return. Paid at time of sale. Is that something you'd be interested in? And then, you get more into it than that. But and to this day, I still raise money. So the majority of my down payments come from private investors. So it grew from friends and family to people I met at networking events, to referrals of friends and family, to referrals of other business partners. And now I have a network of around 30, I call them private lenders, who, when I have a new deal under contract, I'll make a couple of phone calls, or, and then I send them the pro forma, just some high level information on the deal. And then, obviously, I'm not gonna say I don't put any of my own money into it. I certainly do, but that's where the bulk of it comes from. And it just allows you to do as many good deals as you could find. If I was strapped by my own cash, maybe I could do 2-3 deals at a time. But when you're leveraging other people's money, as everyone loves to say, I can theoretically, as long as I can continue to manage them successfully, do as many good deals that come across my desk.
Yeah. So we're going to ask you a little bit about this later on, but I as an investor, there's been bad deals for me where I've actually had to come out of pocket and pay my friends money to get them because their note was due, and that's just how it goes sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's something that you do have to be thoughtful of when you're just taking basically an unsecured second. But that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
I've certainly lost money on deals before.
it's gonna happen.
And it happens. It sucks, but it does happen. And I've always paid back my investors their principal and interest in full. That's just the way I operate. It's the right thing to do. They trusted you. I mean, they're not real estate investors, most of them. Some of them are, but I'm telling them what the ARV is. I'm telling them what the construction budget is. They're, my friends and family, they trust me. I'm not gonna leave them high and dry just because I was off on one of my estimates,
Yep. So right now, specifically in this environment, how are you finding deals?
A little bit of everything, right? So, obviously everyone knows the market is changing, and, for the past 2+ years, it has been pretty hard to find a nice deal that you're not overpaying for. Not saying there weren't good deals out there. I bought plenty of them, but they were hard to come by because everyone was buying. So right now, as the market has slowed down, obviously investors are more conservative. I've had agents calling me, asking me to make offers on their listings, wholesalers following up every day, trying to see if I'll take a look at their opportunity. Excuse me. But, just in general, I have as many, I try to find deals as many ways as possible. So I would say primarily would be referrals. So I love networking with agents. It's an easy way. It's not expensive. Find some agents who do a lot of business in the neighborhoods that you want to do, that you want to invest in. Take them out to lunch, take them out for a drink. And, eventually, it doesn't happen right away. They need, they want to make sure that you're a real buyer first, but eventually it'll build up to a point where, you'll get, referred to nice investment opportunities on a regular basis. But of course, I don't rely on that alone. So I also do my own direct to seller marketing. So direct mail, I have, cold calling companies that will, that I use that, they'll dial 45 hours a week, just calling through lists. And then they send me the leads and I follow up with them. So direct to seller marketing, like I said, I look at the MLS, and I'll make offers, to MLS listings as well. That is, if you don't have a big marketing budget, there's nothing cheaper than that. I guess networking is cheaper than that, but, MLS offers, those are free leads. And, you've got to make a good amount of offers to get them accepted, but I can promise you do enough, they will get accepted. And then wholesalers as well. I've bought, several deals from wholesalers over the years.
You said, say that one more time.
I was gonna say, I bought several deals from wholesalers over the past 5 years.
So a few questions about follow-up questions there. Which, or if you don't mind sharing this, what companies are you using for mailers and what companies are you using for cold calling centers?
Yep. For cold calling, I use a company called Call Geeks. And I go up and down. Sometimes I'll have one agent calling. Sometimes I'll have up to 3 agents calling. And right now, I'm just going to say right now I have one agent because I've kind of slowed down on my marketing spend right now. And I believe I spend about $800 a month for one agent who will dial 45 hours a week. So, I mean, I think that's pretty damn cheap.
That's pretty good.
Because I'm not going to dial for 45 hours a week.
No.
Get my teeth kicked in all day.
Yeah. Where is that caller located? Do you know?
They are overseas.
Is it from the Philippines?
I would assume so. I mean, the company is U.S. based.
Yep.
And then they're hiring. They call them agents. Yeah. And I've never spoken to one directly, but from the leads that I do follow up with, I get the impression that they are from one of those countries over there.
Got it. Okay, that's typical. And then you're buying a list and giving it to them, or how are you doing that?
Yep, I'll buy a list. There's several list providers. Recently I used batch leads and list source. Then I have those lists skip traced, and I send them to the cold caller to run through. And then for direct mail, I think I didn't answer your question earlier. For direct mail, I use ballpoint marketing, which anyone who is familiar with Ryan Dossie, he's relatively famous real estate investor. That's his company, and they have some nice programs. I use them, but I don't send much direct mail. I prefer really very targeted lists for direct mail. So there's actually a different marketing company that will find like probate leads that I pay as well, and then I'll do direct mail to the probate leads.
Got it. That's how you got the one that we're not closing on, or was that not, or was that on?
That's actually an MLS deal.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
We have two questions here. I'll take the first one, you take the second one. So someone is asking if they can use their own self-directed IRA or 401k to do their own deals. If you have a self-directed IRA, you can use that as your down payment. Or if you need to satisfy a liquidity for a bank or something like that, the biggest, or for me, because I have liquidity requirements as well, the biggest thing that you're going to need to understand is that with a self-directed IRA, or if you're taking a loan from your 401k, to satisfy a liquidity requirement and not actually for the down payment, it does need to actually be liquidated. So just having money in your 401k is not going to count. But yes, you can do that. We have that happen all the time. And then and then the next question, this one's for you, Chris. I know every listing could vary. Are you offering at 70% of list price to make sure you have a profit margin depending on the estimated repair cost and ARV? Do you have like a formula, or is it just you're going to throw it in the pro forma that you have, and if it makes sense, you're going to offer?
Yeah, so obviously, I think a lot of people are familiar with I actually forget what it is, ARV times 70% minus repair cost, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a great ballpark, and I would say most of the time I am pretty close to whatever that number is. But before I write up an offer, I do take 30 minutes to run it through my pro forma, pretty basic Excel document where I estimate the repairs, the financing costs, the holding time, the ARV, all that stuff. But typically it's within 5% or so of that basic formula. But I have something a little more detailed that I do use.
Yeah. Because for some of those projects, you can offer a lot higher, especially if it's a quicker turnaround and things like that. So these typical boilerplate formulas might not actually paint a good picture of what the deal would look like if you took it down. So
yeah,
it works.
If you're looking at the MLS, right, and there's 20 distressed leads that you're trying to figure out, okay, which one should I prioritize? Maybe hit it with that real quick. And then the ones that, you're close to the list price on, take the top 5 or so, and then, drill down into those and spend your time on the best 5. That's something I've definitely done before.
Got it. All right. So next question for me. We started off this with me doing a disclaimer saying that I'm not going to be providing advice and that Chris is not going to be providing actual advice. So my next question is, what's the best real estate investment advice that comes to mind?
Shit, I don't think you sent that question to me. The best real estate advice that comes to mind. I think for me, it's the contractors. Some of my worst situations and best situations have come from the contractors I have, worked with. I think that's the number one, one of the top people you got to add to your team. I would find a great contractor and, spend some time vetting them, seeing their projects, having them walk projects with you, getting bids from them, etc. So top of my head, I would say finding, an A+ contractor.
It's funny, during that time, at no point did you talk about how expensive they are, like talking about the prices and things like that. It's all about the work and stuff like that. So that's interesting coming from someone that's had your level of success. That it's not so much about the price, it's about the other stuff that's
yeah. I mean, the saying's true, right? You absolutely get what you pay for. If you're going to use, especially, I mean, I guess that depends, right? So if you're doing stuff in nothing against it, but like PG County where the ARVs are 200, 300, something like that, you don't necessarily need the best contractor, right? You could find someone who can flip your project around in 6 weeks and boom, you hit your goal. If you're doing stuff in some higher price point neighborhoods, then spend the extra money, find a great contractor who's going to give you a nice product.
Absolutely. So we had a few more questions before we move on to some story time. Do you ballpark range, or how much do you invest per square feet on a project?
That's for the construction cost, I assume.
Yep.
So depends per contractor and per ARV. So this is my rough rule of thumb. And like I said, I have 3 contractors that I use. One of them does, most of my higher end stuff, and the other 2, kind of the more middle of the, I mean, still, like I said, I do most of my stuff in DC. So when I say, below high end, I'm $1 million or less is kind of what that number means to me. But so high end, which I consider like $1.5 million to 2 mil or above, it's going to be $200 a square foot, pretty much all day. Sometimes even more if you're going to start doing, really nice custom features. So yeah, 200 a foot for, 1.5 plus, let's say $1 million to $1.5 million, could probably do 150 to 175 per square foot. And then anything below $1 million, again, this is for me, maybe 130 per square foot, 150 sometimes.
Oh, that's higher than I expected you to say on the lower end stuff. So that's exactly right. That's why you're not having.
When I started out, I think my price per square foot estimate was 60. I remember it was $67 a square foot.
Yeah.
So I mean, the prices have changed a lot over the past few years.
Yeah. They have.
They're always telling me the lumber prices, they're just shaking their head. Yep. Lumber price is no good. Sorry.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so follow-up question here. How much was the total renovation on that $2 million sell?
615,000.
615,000. What did you budget?
615,000.
There you go.
Yeah. So now I've gotten to a point with my contractors where we're not really so much hammering out an exact scope of work. And this comes after a couple of years of trust and doing projects together where, when I see a project, I don't have, the architect's plans in front of me, obviously. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we just, the contractor knows what I'm looking for. And, we can say, okay, it's going to be similar to the project, we did last month, similar finishes. Sometimes, maybe I'll make out better, maybe I'll get away with some, a few more windows or whatever. Or sometimes maybe there's a, extra bathroom we add, stuff like that. So right now I don't get as many change orders as I did in the beginning when we were literally budgeting like, okay, this is exactly what's going to happen here. But like I said, that kind of comes with, a couple of years of trust with the contractor.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's super important, especially when, that contractor knows that you're making them a whole bunch of money. So
right.
the change order has to be substantial for them to bother you with it.
Right. Now if we have to underpin or something and we weren't expecting to underpin, obviously they're going to pass that change order right along.
Yeah.
But if it's, hey, maybe we could add a window here, the architect, we didn't originally think we were going to have to cut a hole in this brick wall to add a window. A lot of times they let that slide, and vice versa. If originally we agreed to doing a flagstone patio and maybe the plan, it doesn't get approved because it's in a historic district or something, I'm not going to go back and be like, hey, I'm not paying $2,000 because we didn't end up doing that, or something like that.
That makes sense. In this market, what is a good price point to resell? What type of property are you avoiding right now in the DC market? And this is a interesting question, because if you guys were here in the beginning, we were talking about the fact that he just listed something for $2 million and has multiple offers on it. So
yeah, that's a tough question. I I wish I was smart enough to know the answer to that question. Me personally, what I'm leaning towards are the better neighborhoods, which in turn is obviously the higher price points. My logic and thinking there is, while the interest rates are high, first time home buyers or lower income brackets that live and die by their monthly payments are going to be more affected by people who are buying expensive homes. Obviously they're still not happy about paying those higher interest payments, but they can afford to still buy a home even with the current environment. So that's kind of where I'm switched my focus, is really good neighborhoods. I've spoken to several investors who were around during the 2008s, 2010s, and they said as messy as it was, as tough as it was, the really nice homes in the nice neighborhoods still always sold relatively quickly at close to the list price. So for that reason, I'm sticking to those nice neighborhoods where people want to live, and they can still afford to live there. That being said, I mean, if you can get a hell of a deal in a lower price point neighborhood, just be conservative with your estimates, and could still be a great deal for you.
yeah, so my recommendation there would be cut 5% off of whatever the ARV actually is. Make sure that the ARV is not what the wholesaler told you. The ARV is not what the listing agent told you or anything like that. Make sure it's what the appraiser says, what your lender says, what makes sense to you and things like that. Cut 5% off and add 90 days of holding time if you're going to be selling in a market like that to your pro forma. But I actually kind of, although I don't disagree with what you said, I would just say if it's going to be selling for, if you're doing stuff in like PG County and stuff like that, and you're selling for under $450,000, there's families that need houses, millennial families. They're having kids. They want to buy because it's the time of their life cycle. Has nothing to do with the smart investment at the time. Has to do with the fact that it's the lifetime for them to buy a house. So keep that in mind too. If you're going to be selling single family homes that for that lower end, there's buyers for it.
Right.
Or is it just whatever looks good on the pro forma for that specific deal?
Yeah, so I like to target a certain percentage, and I target a 10% overall cash on cash. So like I said earlier, a lot of times I have very little of my own money in the deal. So when I say cash on cash, I'm not talking about the money out of my pocket. I'm talking about the overall dollars invested. So I'm not great at on the fly math, but let's say I buy something for $1 million. Let's say I buy something for $1 million. Let's say I put $500K into it, and there's another $100,000 of financing charges, whatever. So I'm in it for 1.6. I would like to make 10% of that back.
Okay.
So 160.
Okay. So what
So I would want my profit to be 160,000.
got it. So we would have to factor in all of the lender fees and things like that. And that would have to be less the 160.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay. Are you seeing opportunities to buy office spaces to convert them to residential or mixed use?
I mean, so I haven't until recently. I have not bought any commercial space. I did recently buy an office building in Old Town, Alexandria, that I am reverting back to a residential use. It was a long time business. COVID kind of took them down, and they sold. And obviously, not obviously, but the highest and best use for this particular property was residential. So that's happened one time.
Yeah, you see that a lot in the especially in like Capitol Hill area, where it's just an office has been running out of a single family home.
Right.
Yeah, so we see, to answer this question on my side, we see the opportunity to convert office spaces and into residential a lot. It is somewhat tough to do because the as is, the way that they are day one, does play a role in how our lending works. And so it is tougher to get financing for it. But what I've been seeing even more of is getting motel to studio apartment conversions. That is super popular right now. Not necessarily in this area, but as you go down south, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, it's super, super popular. So that's an investment strategy that I've been seeing, and I think it's pretty cool. To quickly answer Jaz's question, he paid $615 for that, in total for that budget. How long did it take you to get the permit?
Permit for that one, it was in a historic district, which always adds a level of difficulty, just because they scrutinize your plans a little bit more. I think it took us about 2 months to get that permit. Yeah, so I bought this house in February 2022. Took us about 2 months to get the permit. We started the construction, got the thing you never want in DC. We got the stop work order. One of the neighbors complained about us, and they called us on a nice technicality, so we got shut down for about 6 weeks, back up and running, and we completed it about 2 or 3 weeks ago now.
Got it. So let's finish up my questions, just because I love story time, and then
Okay.
we'll do the rest of the questions that we missed and any other questions that come up. But I want you to tell me about your favorite deal, not your most profitable deal. It could be your most profitable deal, but your favorite deal.
It's definitely not gonna be the one I lost money on.
Of course.
Yeah, so I would say one of my most favorite ones is actually, it's in my background here. If you can see it, I'll turn the camera a bit for a sec. It's that one right there with a nice twilight photo. So that is a home on Capitol Hill. It's on North Carolina Ave in DC, and it was just smooth from start to finish. Got the permits quick, got the work done on time. And, as we all know, it's been a seller's market for a couple of years now. So got it listed in the spring of 2022 and just got it sold, right away for a little bit above the original ARV, and everything just kind of seemed to fall in place on that one. So, that's definitely
So the one didn't you throw like a demo party in one?
I think I teased that on social media, because that house is it was super, super dated, as all of them are, but it kind of looks like something George Washington would have lived in. So I think I was like, should I throw a George Washington party here?
Oh, okay, got it.
Never actually did it, but it was a good idea.
It was a good idea. It was a good idea. All right, now you gotta tell us about your least favorite deal.
My least favorite deal, Man, it's actually, I love all the deals, but one of my least favorite is actually one that I've had it listed for sale for about 2 months now. I actually accepted an offer a couple of weeks ago, but it was a home in Capitol Hill that I got from a realtor, so realtor referral, and this was height of the seller's market. So the ARVs were soaring. Investors felt like they couldn't miss. So I definitely overpaid for it. I knew I did, but I figured that prices are just going to keep going up and I'd be bailed out. And everything kind of similar, dissimilar to the last project. I said my favorite one, where everything fell into place. Things just did not go my way this time. So it took 5 to 6 months to get the permit. I had the neighbors complaining about the work the whole time. And to be truthful, I probably overdeveloped it for the neighborhood. So we did a large addition. We went up a level, we went back, we did a rooftop deck, and there weren't many comps in that neighborhood that did anything similar to that. So I probably, like I said, overdeveloped and definitely missed the seller's market. I listed in about August 2022, which is when stuff really started to slow down.
Yeah.
So if I would have listed it in, March, maybe it wouldn't be my least favorite deal. But I was a few months late, sat for a while, and definitely losing a little bit of money on that one. So I guess, like we said earlier, it happens. Biggest lesson there, I think, is just, timing is everything. Not timing, but getting through a deal quickly, right? The quicker you can get to a deal, obviously the less financing costs you have and the less risk you take on with a market changing from the time you bought it.
Time is money. Believe me, as a hard money lender, I know that. That's how we pay the bills over here. So,
yeah.
All right. What is the craziest investment story that you have?
All right. So craziest one actually came pretty early on. I think it was maybe the 4th or 5th deal I bought. It was a single family home in Arlington. It was going to be super, super nice. I was very excited about it. It was my first deal. It was not my first deal in Virginia. It was one of my first deals in Virginia. And so it was an estate sale. And from what my belief was, that there was 4 people involved in the estate, and they all agreed to sell it. They came to closing. They signed all the paperwork. We were good to go. I was excited. Next day, I go over there. They left the key in the lockbox. At this point, I hadn't learned a key lesson yet. So they left the key in the lockbox. I was just going to go pick it up after closing. Went over there the next morning. I'm all excited. I'm going to take some pictures of my new deal. And I get there and the key's not in the lockbox. And there's a car in the driveway. And so I was still unlicensed at this point. So I called my agent and I'm like, the key's not here, and there's a car still here. So, am I taking responsibility for the car too? Can you figure out what's going on? And so he calls me back, and he didn't really have much more information for me. But what we ended up finding out was that there was one sibling involved in the estate that was cut out of the transaction. So the other 4 siblings, they hated, I guess they seem to have hated this sister of theirs. And so they took all the proceeds for themselves. They did not involve her with the sale. And so what did she do? She moved into the home the day after I closed on it. So I owned a house that she was now living in. And it took me about 18 months to get her out of that house. I had to go to court. Thank God for title insurance. It was a debacle. So
wow.
I also got, my lender on that was the same, bank lender I mentioned early on in the meeting. And he was like, I've been lending for 30 years and I have never seen this happen. Meanwhile, I'd been investing for 6 months and I buy a deal with an estate sale gone wrong, and the angry sister moves into the basement. that was a mess. Thank God Arlington's a great market to buy in. So I bought it, and like I said, 18 months later, she got evicted. I'm guessing my honest take on it is that she was a sibling, and her siblings, kind of screwed her over. But that's not my problem to deal with. So 18 months later, kicked her out, or she got evicted, and I sold it as is, and somehow still made money.
There you go. Congratulations on that. I'm glad that wasn't in your least favorite deal.
You gotta love Arlington.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you answering all my questions, and I appreciate you talking tonight. So until
someone said AC, I don't know who AC is, but they said thinking your least favorite deal would be your 4-unit property getting hit by a huge tree on Owen Street. I don't know who AC is, but I did have a tree almost fall on one of my deals, and it just nicked the roof. Thank God.
Was it completed?
So I had 2 projects on the same street. They were across the street from each other. One of them was completed. One of them we were just getting started. The tree was on the side of the completed project, and we had winds of biblical proportions here in DC on like a summer day or something, and it knocked the tree over, or the tree broke and fell over, and thank God it fell towards the side of the street with the uncompleted project, and like I said, just kind of hit the roof over there, which we were going to replace anyways. If it would have fallen the other way, it would have smashed through my 100% completed 4-unit condo project, and I might have lost my mind. Yeah,
that would have been your least favorite for sure.
Yeah, that would definitely be my least favorite.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much. We're gonna open it up. Please, if you have any questions, please shoot them in. Some questions that we did not get to was it looks like the only question that I did not get to was do you mind sharing your pro forma? If you want, you can just send me the pro forma and I can send it out to everyone. If you do mind, I will send them my pro forma.
Yeah, no, I can send it to you. It's no problem.
Okay, we'll do that. We have a question.
I will say, some of the numbers are specific to me, right? So your financing costs might be different. Your construction estimates might be different, stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah, that's again, this is not advice. We're just having a conversation. Do you see less delays from getting supplies and permits since the pandemic has ended?
It does seem to be getting a little better. Still not great, but does seem to be getting a little better. And it seems like, I kind of joked about it earlier, the contractor complaining about the lumber costs. I haven't heard that in a few months, so I assume the lumber costs are getting a little better as well.
Yeah, I look at the lumber costs because now I have to deal with the biggest thing that I deal with now is borrowers being like, the lumber prices are too high. Can you help me out here? And I'm like, yeah, we can go through the refinance process. You just need to be honest with me. Like, what's the actual situation? And so I started looking it up, and I'm like, no, the lumber costs are actually not up right now. But
yikes.
So, yeah. But they came back down.
And one thing before we sign off, I will say, just give Kevin a free plug. I've worked with several lenders, Washington Capital. They're always great to work with. And I came across another investor the other day, earlier this week, who is, fire sailing 5 or 6 of his own projects. And I asked him why. I was like, what's going on here? Like, you scared about the market or what? And his reason for selling was his lender won't give him any more draws. Basically, his lender is just cut him off with no rhyme or reason, which can absolutely screw anyone. And, so I guess before you get into, that with a lender, find someone with a nice track record, who, will give you your draws on time and not cut you off halfway through the project, because that can kill you.
Yeah, I'll say I appreciate it first off. I'll say that it's not hard to become a hard money lender. The barrier to entry is literally nothing. We don't have a license for lending out money. We're a business giving other businesses loans. That's how it works. So you can find a lender that could possibly run out of money. That's a very real possibility. So yeah, make sure that you're vetting your lender. I appreciate the plug. And before we do log off, if you don't mind, stick around. I got another 20 minutes or so if it possibly goes that long, just to make sure that all these questions are answered. Are you with Compass, or do you need to go?
No, I'm good. Sorry, I was just reading the chat as well. I am with Compass, yes.
Awesome. Why did you choose them?
Just a relationship thing. I was with another brokerage previously. Someone that I had known for a while was at Compass, and they recruited me over there, and it was a nice fit.
There you go. So FYI, everyone, you had to give me all your contact information to get into the Zoom. So I'll definitely send it to everyone that was in here, including the recording, which I'm not sure what parts of the recording got cut off, but yeah. What's your normal net profit on a flip?
Pass.
Pass?
I mean, there's no normal. I don't know. It's a wide range. You know what I mean?
All right, I'll ask one for you then. What's the most you've ever lost on a flip?
Close to six figures.
Close to six figures?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. It happens.
Do you have me beat on that?
Oh yeah.
You do?
Oh yeah. We won't talk about that though. Are the fees crazy at the moment? That's a question to me. The fees are higher than they've been since 2018, since the beginning of 2018. Are obviously your typical lender has increased rates by like 4 to 5%. We've increased rates by about 3%. So we're not as bad as any other bank out there, but we've definitely increased rates. And it looks like the new normal is probably going into 2023 is probably going to be about 10% and 2 points paid at closing for a typical hard money loan. What are the numbers you're looking for to make it a good deal? I think that we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but the biggest thing is just, does the profit margin make sense for the amount of money that you're investing, right? So I really think that it completely depends on what you want to do as an investor. But if I'm going to put $15 into a fix and flip, I better be making at least like $7 to $10 at the very, very, very minimum. And that's for an easy single family home fix and flip. The majority of people there's other people that need to keep people working, right? Because they have construction companies and they can flip a house and break even, but as long as their construction company is doing work, that's all that matters to them. What spread are you looking for in purchase price and ARV? Again, that doesn't really matter, because it's all about like how much money you can make when you run all the numbers together. But that 70% rule is what a lot of people stick to. What's the average cost per square foot for renovation? Chris was saying it's anywhere, but for him in DC specifically, it's about 150 to 200 plus for everything that he's doing.
Yeah, you could get. I've gotten as low as 130 on some of the. I mean, still very nice projects, selling in the $700 to $1 million range. 130 for me on the low end, 200 plus on the high end.
Got it. Do we miss any here? What else you guys got?
Someone said, which project is more profitable, condo conversion or flip? If done successfully, the condo conversion should be more profitable every time. That being said, bigger project, bigger risk. If you're off on a single family home, not the end of the world. If you're off on a large condo conversion project, watch out. But if done successfully, condo conversion should be more profitable every time.
I heard someone say one time to me, if you screw up a condo conversion, or if you screw up a single family home, it sucks, but you got to move into it. You now have a new house. If you screw up a condo conversion deal, you can't live in all the condos at once. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Why do you focus only on DC?
So I have I do projects in Northern Virginia as well. So I live in Northern Virginia. I focus on DC because it's kind of the market I've gained expertise in. And very simple answer, if I want to go to all my projects, or half in one day, half on the other day, I can get to 10 projects in one area much quicker if I'm in DC rather than driving from Woodbridge to Alexandria to Arlington to McLean to Leesburg. When in DC, I can get to several projects within 5 minutes of each other. And plus, I like the market. Very easy to run comps on it. There's a lot of similar properties there, and it's a strong market historically.
Yeah, and especially if you know DC, the comps part is it's just second nature. Someone can tell you about a deal, and you're just like, oh yeah, I know how much that'll sell. I can offer X. I'm assuming I'll take a look at it,
Right.
But I'll offer you X right now. How do you get high end design? You use an interior designer?
For the high-end projects, I do use an interior designer, yes. And that being said, you don't have to use them every time, right? So use them for one project, use the same finishes for the next few, you know what I mean? They send you their finish schedule, so don't need to pay them every time. Apologize if there's any designers on here tonight, but that's what I've done in the past.
Yep. That's the way to do it. So someone's AC, who was chirping you about the tree said,
it's coming to mind now. I think it's Arthur.
He got several bids from DC contractors to charge about 250 per square foot. Does that sound right to you? Do you mind saying what the total budget is? Because 250 square foot for certain things might be low, So can you put context to that? And
I would say unless it's like a big condo conversion project where you have 15 kitchens or something, and 30 bathrooms, I would say 250 a foot sounds high. A $2 million condo conversion. How many units? 3 units. And it's on the high end. I would say that. For condo conversions, maybe it's on the high end. I would say you could maybe do 225, but not a huge difference there.
Yeah. Also, how involved are you about to be in this project? Are you dropping the keys off? Because you're going to pay for that. Right. So is the design part of it? Is the architect and everything, all that involved? Is that all in that price? Because then maybe it works. Chris, who pulls your permits in DC? Your GC does?
Architect. I engage an architect. Architect gets the permits, and then I pass them along to the contractor.
Got it. we got anything else? Anyone have any questions?
Architect
Do you
name.
want to give up your architect name?
I can't do that right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That the biggest thing is there's a lot of questions that people are not willing to answer. Architect is one of them. Their favorite GC is another one.
I would say the way I found information in the past is, and this is for DC. I don't know if Virginia or Maryland are different. DC has what's called the e-records, right? You log on to the e-records. Let's say you find a comp. Oh, I like that layout. I like those finishes. You can go plug in that address. You can find the plans. You can find the permit. 90+% of the time, it's going to have the architect's name, and then it's going to have the contractor's name. And then you call them.
Yep.
That's how I've done it.
The contractor thing, that's you gotta just, what work do you like? Just simply steal that person. Like you don't need to network for that. You can find them.
Right.
Yep. Awesome. Chris, man, I appreciate it. We've been talking about this for a while.
It's been fun.
It has been fun. I'm sure I'll be seeing you in person shortly in one of these in the future.
Yeah, let's do it.
And let me know if there is anything else that comes up afterwards. Shoot me a message, and we can get those questions answered. That looks like 2 more if you want to answer those before we log off, and then we'll get out of here. Butler, you want to do your spiel about also Nathaniel? The other Nathaniel doesn't work at the company anymore. I can start calling you your first name again if you'd like. Sorry about that.
Well, let's let Chris wrap up those last 2 questions, then I'll cap off after that.
Sounds good.
Deals that I don't want. I don't have like an exact process for them. Unfortunately, they don't all work out. Most of them don't work out. So move on and try to find one that does. I've done very little wholesaling. I probably wholesaled 2 deals, in the past 5 years or so. Which maybe that's a flaw in my system. Maybe I could make, capitalize on some more wholesale fees, but that's just not something I've done a lot of. So a lot of times I just, they don't like my offer. I'm going to move on to the next one.
Awesome.
All right, I'll jump in my spiel. Thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, Chris, for attending. For everybody who's kind of wondering why you got blasted with a bunch of emails last minute, we've had a lot of scheduling back and forth changes, and that's why we're still virtual. I am pushing very hard. Kevin's pushing very hard for us to get back in person and actually get some networking done. New office, new space, me being remote, a lot of moving parts. So I appreciate the patience everybody has as we're slow to get back in person. That said, I would love for next month to be in person. I know a ton of folks are probably traveling around the holidays, but if you can't make the December one, please put it on your calendar for January. We want a big showing, and we want to introduce the networking portion really heavily and make it about 50%, conversations, guest speakers, and 50% networking. So looking forward to seeing that happen. I might even fly back and see if I can catch 1 or 2 next year. But that said, look out for emails, look out for a little more notice ahead of time of when we're going to be back in person and get to see everybody. And yes, we will send the recording of this one in our follow-up email.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thank you again, Chris, and thank you for all of the questions. I look forward to seeing everyone in person next month.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.